Welcome to the Office of the Treasurer and Tax Collector's Commercial Vacancy Tax Informational video. The video will provide information on what the commercial vacancy tax is, how the tax works, who is required to file, and who is required to pay. What is the commercial vacancy tax? It is a tax on keeping certain commercial space vacant for more than 182 days in a calendar year. I will cover which areas of the city and which types of commercial spaces the tax applies to shortly. For purposes of the tax, vacant is defined as unoccupied, uninhabited, or unused for more than 182 days in a calendar year. This is regardless of whether the 182 days is consecutive or not. The commercial vacancy tax was approved by San Francisco voters on March 3rd, 2020, and became effective as of January 1st, 2022. For purposes of the commercial vacancy tax, taxable commercial space is defined as the ground floor of any commercial building where the ground floor is all of the following: located in one of the named neighborhood commercial districts or named neighborhood commercial transit districts, and adjacent or tangent to a public right-of-way, such as dedicated public alleys, boulevards, courts, lanes, roads, sidewalks, spaces, streets, and ways within the city, and not residential real estate. Here is a map to show you where the named neighborhood commercial districts and named neighborhood commercial transit districts are in the city. There are a total of 44 districts the commercial vacancy tax applies to. If your business or commercial space is not located in one of these orange shaded areas, you will not be required to file or pay this tax. Where can I find this map? To check to see if the commercial vacancy tax applies to your commercial space, you may visit our website, sftreasure.org/commercial vacancy. Under the commercial vacancy tax page, there is a list of drop-downs. Click on the Confirm the commercial vacancy tax applies to your space to expand the option. And this will show you a map of districts that the commercial vacancy tax applies to. You may click on the map to get an estimation of the area you are in by moving and zooming in or clicking on the magnifying glass to search your address to see if the commercial space lands on a shaded area that is covered by this tax. Here is a list of the 32 named neighborhood commercial districts. This list is also available on our website under the same section as the map. And here is the list of the 12 named neighborhood commercial transit districts. A list of these districts is also available on our website. Now that you know where in the city the commercial vacancy tax is applicable, let me share when space is considered vacant. Commercial space is considered vacant if it is unoccupied, uninhabited, or unused for more than 182 days in a calendar year. This is regardless of whether the 182 days is consecutive or not. Commercial space will not be considered to be vacant during the following periods: building permit application period, construction period, conditional use application period, and disaster period. Let's go over each of these periods. Commercial space will not be considered vacant during the building permit application period. This is the period between the date that the first application of a building permit is filed and the date that the Department of Building Inspection grants or denies that application up to a maximum of 1 year. Commercial space will also not be considered vacant during the construction period. This is a 1-year period after the city issues the first building permit for repair, rehabilitation, or construction. The two other periods when a commercial space is not considered vacant is the conditional use application period and disaster period. Conditional use application period is the 183-day period after the first complete application for a conditional use permit is filed. If the Planning Commission has not granted or denied the application within 183 days, this period is extended to December 31 of that year. And finally, disaster period is the 2-year period after the date that a commercial space is severely damaged and made uninhabitable or unusable because of fire, natural disaster, or other catastrophic event. Who is required to file the commercial vacancy tax? All owners, tenants, and subtenants located in the previously mentioned commercial space must file, regardless of whether the space was vacant. As a reminder, that includes ground floor of any building where the ground floor is in a named neighborhood commercial district or named neighborhood commercial transit district, and adjacent or tangent to a public right-of-way. For example, assume owner A leases a commercial space to tenant B, and tenant B subleases the space to subtenant C. Who is currently operating the space? A, B, and C must all file. Who is required to pay the commercial vacancy tax? The only persons that have to pay are the owner, tenant, or subtenant if the property is vacant. Going back to our prior example, assume owner A leases commercial space to tenant B, and tenant B subleases the space to subtenant C. But now subtenant C holds the property vacant. A, B, and C all must file, but only C must pay. However, there are a couple of exceptions. Some owners, tenants, or subtenants may be exempt from paying if they are exempt under IRS Code 501c3. Additionally, if you lease or sublease a space from someone else for a period of at least 2 years and have operated a business in that space for more than 182 consecutive days, you will not be liable for the commercial vacancy tax for the remainder of that lease or sublease. I will provide an example of this situation in a moment. Regardless of whether they are exempt from paying the commercial vacancy tax or other taxes, the owner, tenant, and subtenant of the commercial space must file a commercial vacancy tax return. Let's go over a few scenarios to determine who must file and who must pay. Scenario 1. Craig Walters is the owner of a multi-story property at Stockton Street, not located in a named neighborhood commercial district or named neighborhood commercial transit district. He leases the ground floor to a retail store which is currently vacant. Who will need to file the commercial vacancy tax? Craig Walters, retail store, neither, or both? The answer is C. neither Craig Walters or the retail store because the space is not within a named neighborhood commercial district or named neighborhood commercial transit district. Who will need to pay the commercial vacancy tax? The answer is C. Neither Craig Walters nor the retail store will have to pay the commercial vacancy tax because the space is not within a named neighborhood commercial district or named neighborhood commercial transit district. Scenario 2. Barbara Jones owns the property at 2199 Market Street within a named neighborhood commercial district. She operates Parents Corner on the ground floor facing the street, but leases the second floor to Juno's Delicacies, which has been vacant for 7 months. Who will need to file the commercial vacancy tax? Barbara Jones, Juno's Delicacies, neither, or both? The answer is A. Only Barbara Jones will need to file. Juno's Delicacies is not required to file because it is not located on the ground floor. Who will need to pay the commercial vacancy tax? Barbara Jones, Juno's Delicacies, neither, or both? The answer is C. Neither Barbara Jones nor Juno's Delicacies will have to pay because the space vacant is not on the ground floor. Scenario 3. 2160 Mission Street is within a named neighborhood commercial transit district. It is a storefront on the ground floor and in the public right-of-way. Juan Rodriguez is the owner of the property. He has leased property to Mi Casa Bonita since 2018. But due to some hardship, Mi Casa Bonita went out of business 7 months ago after operating for several years. Who will need to file the commercial vacancy tax? Juan Rodriguez, Mi Casa Bonita, neither, or both? The answer is D. Both Juan Rodriguez and Mi Casa Bonita will have to file the commercial vacancy tax because they are either owning or leasing a commercial space that the commercial vacancy tax applies to. Who will need to pay the commercial vacancy tax? Juan Rodriguez, Mi Casa Bonita, neither, or both? The answer is C. Neither Juan Rodriguez nor Mi Casa Bonita will have to pay because if a leasee has operated a business in a commercial space for more than 182 consecutive days during a lease of at least 2 years, the leasee will not be liable for the commercial vacancy tax for the remainder of that lease, regardless of whether the space is vacant. Scenario 4. 550 Broadway is within a named neighborhood commercial district. It is a storefront on the ground floor and adjacent to the public right-of-way. Bob Smith is the owner of the property. He leases it to Gaga's Books since 2010, which during the tax year at issue operated in half the space. Gaga's Books subleased the other half of the space to Mike Vassell for the entire tax year at issue, but Mike Vassell has not yet started operating his business. Who will need to file the commercial vacancy tax? Bob Smith, Gaga's Books, Mike Vassell, neither, or all? The answer is E. All of them. Bob Smith, Gaga's Books, and Mike Vassell. Who will need to pay the commercial vacancy tax? Bob Smith, Gaga's Books, Mike Vassell, neither, or all? The answer is C, Mike Vassell, because he is keeping the space vacant. We hope these scenarios help you understand who will need to file and pay the commercial vacancy tax. Now that we've shared several scenarios to understand who must file and pay, the question is, when do you need to file and pay? For most, filing and payment of the commercial vacancy tax will begin in 2023. The filing and payment will be due annually by the last day of February for the prior year. For example, for the period of January 1, 2022 through December 31, 2022, the filing and payment will be due on February 28, 2023. The commercial vacancy tax will be made available each year in January. How is the commercial vacancy tax calculated? The commercial vacancy tax rate is calculated based on a building's frontage, the total length of commercial space facing the public right-of-way, and the number of consecutive calendar years beginning in 2022 that the commercial space is vacant for more than 182 days. For example, if the first calendar year the commercial space is vacant is in 2022 for more than 182 days, a person will pay $250 per linear foot in February 2023. If the same space is vacant in calendar year 2023, then the person will pay $500 per linear foot in February 2024. If the same commercial space is vacant for 3 or more years, that person will pay $1,000 per linear foot in February 2025, and so forth. However, if the commercial space is not vacant in calendar year 2022, but is vacant for more than 182 days in calendar year 2023, then no payment is due in February 2023, but they will need to pay $250 per linear foot in February 2024. The Board of Supervisors passed legislation to permit the Office of the Treasurer and Tax Collector to disclose certain commercial vacancy tax information to the public. The following information collected from the commercial vacancy tax return will be made available via Data SF. Name of the persons required to file a commercial vacancy tax and whether each person filed. Name of the persons required to pay the commercial vacancy tax. The address and block and lot number of the taxable commercial space. If the taxable commercial space was vacant during a tax year, and the commercial vacancy tax rate that applies to the space for a given tax year. Thank you for watching the commercial vacancy tax video. We hope this video helps you better understand the tax.